All right, so what we're doing here with the heel elevation and why we're so big on programming heel elevation within quad movements. But first and foremost, I want to show you guys the difference from each person, even when there's a minute difference in terms of height, right? The anatomical difference within each body is tremendous, right? So Riley is, how tall are you?
5'8".
Which is really 5'5". He's just lying about that shit. Hey, I'm 5'9". What? 5'8". Yeah, no way he's 5'8". I know. No chance. 5'9", okay? So there's not realistically that big of a difference between us, especially as it relates to muscularity, and definitely as it relates to height, okay? But at the end of the day, when I get to the bottom of a squat, based on how long my femurs are, how shitty my heel mobility is, right? When I get to the bottom of the squat, I end up, especially when I'm flat-footed, I end up in this position at the bottom. This is my most comfortable position. You can see how forward my torso is, right? Anything outside of that gets really, really hard, right? For me to stand up straight in. Riley, go ahead and show him your squat. This is the only reason why Riley has a little bit more muscle than I do. He's a little bit more upright at the bottom of the squat than I would be, right? And it allows him to be in a much more advantageous position to be able to get full knee flexion and full knee extension without having too much spinal loading. So especially when it comes to a squat, right? He's not loading so much through the spine. He's just in a more anatomical position to have a linear press through those quads, if that makes sense, versus me where I have to get more hip extension and more back out of this, if that makes sense. Go ahead, stand up. So what we do for people like myself, the people that have to work harder than people like Riley because we just weren't born with it, is we want to make sure that we get our heels elevated. We're taking out the ankle mobility now, and I can put myself in a position where at the bottom of the squat, my torso is now much more upright, similar to Riley, right? So we have something as simple as 10-pound plates on the floor. Every gym has that available. But again, if your gym is awesome, you'll have opportunity to use things like heel wedges, and if you can't, if your gym doesn't have these, they are available on Amazon. You can get heel wedges. These are from Prime Fitness, which you can buy your own heel wedges through Prime Fitness. But again, these are going to be pretty applicable as well. The only problem with the 10-pound plate is that there is a gap, right? That you guys can see there between so I'm not really evenly distributed as far as my weight is concerned. I am between the ball of my feet and the heel of my feet, but there's obviously a pretty big gap there. If we want to close that off and gain just a little bit more stability, we can hop on here like Riley is. Now the key is you got to make sure the ball of your foot is on the floor, the heel of your foot is on the wedge, where we can evenly distribute the weight through the entirety of our foot touching the floor. All right, so I'm telling you right now, one of the biggest things I wish I did when I was younger was realize that my ankle mobility was shit and put my ankles in a better position to be able to squat. It would have helped me grow my quads a lot earlier, but realistically, it would have protected my knee joints so that I wasn't such an old cranky man with bad knees at just 38 young years of life.
38 old years. Look at his gray beard.
Yeah. Another form of squat that we will program quite often is the goblet squat. Now, we might be using this for multiple different reasons, right? First reason is it is, in my opinion, one of the easier ways to regress this squat pattern, right, in a way that somebody can do it efficiently, and then we can build that up and progress to things like, you know, the Smith machine split squat that we did, a proper back squat, you know, et cetera, right? So this again puts us in a position where we're just a little bit, it's a little bit more, it could be beginner, right, in terms of the way that we're programming. I was trying to stay away from that word, but it's going to fit here pretty well. It could be the beginner version of a squat for us, or it could be something that I'm just using to torture you later on, especially when you're somebody like Marina that's doing 3 leg days a week. You know, that might be something that's in there to really help us hit more of that lower body, whether it's the glutes and or the quads. It's just a different variation of it. Go ahead, Riley. But easily put, this is just, again, another version of the squat where we're holding the weight in the front. The reason why I like this relative to a back squat, so to speak, because some people might be like, why don't we just put a lesser weight on the back, a small bar, or like a fixed bar that some of those gyms have, right? That might be like 10 to 15 pounds. I wouldn't want a beginner using a 45-pound, you know, Olympic bar. That might just be too heavy, right? But why not a lightweight on the back? The reason why is because, again, most people will come forward. there in that squat. This one allows them to stay upright a little bit more. So we have the ankles propped up, and we're putting them in a position where they can kind of manage that weight a little bit more efficiently. And then I know a lot of people might think like, oh, core. And when you are a little bit more advanced and we're programming this just to beat the shit out of your lower body, that's one thing that you're going to have to take into consideration with this is the heavier you go there, the more brace you're going to have here, so you're not coming too far forward with it, right? And that might be something where there's an additional consideration to make as far as the fatigue of this exercise relative to the stimulus that we're getting through the glutes and the quads. But nonetheless, this is the goblet squat, and we always want to get those heels elevated, weight goes in the front, and it's as simple as that.